We're live. We're going live. Hope that y'all doing good out there. Welcome back to the Daddy Dating channel. We talk about dating, how to be a successful, happy man, how to make this work, how we're going to make it work. Let's talk about it here today. Let me pull up my YouTube here so I can actually see your comments from yours truly. I got it up and going. Hope that y'all doing ready good out there. Hope that y'all are ready. And I think we're going to have a fun one today. Hope that we get more people involved too. Please join me on our crusade or mission to not only help men be successful in dating and have a happy experience or good experience, but also to help women be happy. Because obviously feminism is not here for women. Feminism is not helping women to be happy. That's definitely the case. It's definitely the truth. And it's not just my truth. It's the truth. But let's continue here. Let's get going. Let's get us started over here with the first article we're going to talk about, called the four of the top dating trends of 2022 so far. This is from the website Mashable. This is a social kind of website that talks about dating. Of course, they like to interject politics and certain things as they would like to here and there. But it is an interesting website that does talk about some relevant information. They say that the first thing that you need to, again, four of the top 10 dating trends is to choose your priorities. Choose your priority. I would say priorities. They talk about it isn't a new revelation from coming out to breaking up. This is how these people think. So they think it's very common. Hey, and again, more power to the LGBTQ. But they think they act as if this is the new trend and that this empowers you or somehow makes you a better, a higher value person if you identify as multigender. And I mention this because this is where we are going towards in the future as a trend. You're not a good feminist, or you're not a good female quote unquote person if you haven't had an abortion, and you're not you're probably not a good person if you don't identify personally as one of these pronouns. And also breaking up is fun. These people are perpetually single. Hey, more power to the single people who are single, and the single life, the bachelor life, and the bachelorette life. But supposedly they care so much about relationships and so much about dating, but of course they never settle down. But again, their big point here isn't any of that. It's about the coof. It's about the cough. They say figurative or literal joint to our systems made us rethink what life is. Now, to a lot of people, I don't know how you feel about the coof and the cough. We're not going to get into where it came from because it did come from somewhere, and it did. It was created in some way, and the information is hidden. One of the biggest scandals, along with the Green New Deal. One of the biggest scandals and one of the biggest lies and biggest crimes ever committed in human history. But we're just going to avoid that here. But they say that we should continue to redefine and change how we interact with people, and based on this thing that happened. Of course, big change, big opportunity, big chaos is how a lot of people get into power. This is how a lot of people any opportunity is a good opportunity to these people, even if it's a travesty, even if it's a very bad thing that happened, a massacre or something. Let's continue. They say, what was important to us 3 years ago simply isn't anymore, said OkCupid's Associate Director of Global Communications. So she's saying that, you should change your social norms, your social expectations, meeting somebody face to face, talking somebody face to face, holding somebody's hands, sitting close to somebody, going to a park, meeting somebody at the coffee shop, and all these things that were kind of our social norms, people meeting at coffee shops, people meeting at bars. They're saying that you need to embrace dating apps, and dating apps are just a mess. Women are not looking for love and long-term relationships, not only because they have so much opportunity and they get their egos boosted, so they don't really understand their SMV, they don't really understand how attractive they are or aren't, and they continue to play the game until they get older and they feel like they want to check out and check in their chips, and then they won't settle down because they were able to date a very attractive man, or a couple of them at one point are some very wealthy men, and now they think that they can marry or have a long-term relationship or children with those men. And for some reason, mothers and fathers are not sitting down with their daughters. Feminism is telling them that they can, wait till they're 30 years old and then look for Mr. Right, and that there's going to be somebody rich enough or, attractive enough, that somebody has enough status, and that, all these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of feminists think that, that they deserve, Mr. Right, 6 foot tall, making well over 100,000, and also able to impress them better than an average man in the bedroom. But let's continue on. They talk about, with global communications, that they're encouraging more and more women to do this. And again, I do think that dating apps can be a good thing. I think that they have the possibility to connect like-minded people to one another. I think it's an amazing opportunity. I think that it's an opportunity and a thing that of potential great value, and something that we've really squandered. We should be connecting to people and finding our, people say your tribe, your friends, people who are like-minded to you. The technology, should be doing that. Again, of course, there's things like Facebook groups, and there's been some things like that, but we haven't really been using technology to really connect and build communities, I think, as much as we should. But let's continue on. With the rest of the article, they say, considering all that we've been through in the past 2 years, even beyond the pandemic, they say, like the threat to reproductive rights. I don't know if you know. Again, these women are becoming extremely vengeful and extremely aggressive. They're targeting all men, not just white men, but all men of even minorities, and excluding them from getting hired. These women who are in HR departments. That's why it's been very difficult. But now they are openly aggressive, and they're open about their hate and their bigotry towards men, because they think that they should be able to murder unborn children at any time for any reason, even if the child is fully developed at 8 or 9 months old. And now they're going to take that out, and they think that this is, again, I'm bringing these things up because there's a lot of modern people where their priorities are not traditional. They're not really normal, and you need to figure out if, it's where they stand and what they believe. In the past, you would find somebody, and you would hopefully you both would be attracted to each other. You both would want to, figure out what kind of lifestyle do you want. You probably would have a similar culture, similar core beliefs. Hopefully, you would find somebody of a similar religion, or somebody who would tolerate your religious practices, and then you'd both be happy, and you'd both have a family. These days, you have to go down the checklist. There's a lot of people who are highly influenced. Your attitudes regarding the coof, the cough, can be a make it or break it. Your opinions and beliefs regarding global warming, or quote unquote climate change, can be a make it or break it. Your opinions on abortion and quote unquote feminism and these types of things, and there's even more. Those are just some of the big ones. If you have the wrong opinion to some of these people, that's a deal breaker. And again, some of you men out there are trying to swindle your way in. You're trying to lie. You're trying to say the right things. There's men out there who are lying about, or swindling women regarding astrology. Man, if you don't care about astrology, don't lie to a woman that you care about astrology, or try to convince a woman to date you because you're the right astrological partner, twin flame kind of stuff. If you don't believe in that and you don't care about it, don't bother to date that kind of person. But it is more difficult. This again, when people and communities and cultures in general are happier if we have common core beliefs. Now, I'm not attacking diversity. I think diversity of skin color and culture and all those things can be great and they can be beneficial. But if we don't have core principles and core beliefs, and or maybe we feel so strongly about a few individual thoughts, again, like the coof, or about abortion, or about climate change and some of these things, that creates some big divides. And again, diversity can work, but common culture is something that's important. We all need to, if like one of them is honesty. I don't know if you've seen, but it's socially acceptable for a lot of these people to directly lie to you the first time they talk to you, and then you have to get them to tell you the truth, tell them the truth. Or it's socially acceptable for them to regurgitate what everybody else believes. They don't have to give you a truthful answer about what they actually think. Or they can actually go to the extreme, like we saw recently with that Berkeley lawyer. She's a professor at college, and you ask her a question and or try to figure out something so you can understand them, and they tell you, give you the answer to what you should have asked and what they think is more important. This is the kind of culture that we have. So honesty, people who are forthright, honest, and straightforward, that's kind of being thrown out the door, isn't it? But let's continue on. They say, considering all that we've been through with this, so you're supposed to sympathize. You're supposed to identify with the the message. They say what was important to us 2 or 3 years ago isn't anymore. So these are the same people who constantly move the narrative. What's important and what your priority should be and what you should be caring about. These are the same people. They don't really, a lot of the times they don't have a lot of core principles that they stand on themselves, but they're always trying to fight or do the next current thing. So if you're trying to date somebody and they have pronouns, or they're changing their Instagram profile to support Ukraine or whatever it is, you probably want to just, they're probably not worth the hassle, because their opinions can swing or change dramatically. And they're what they care about, and if they even care about you, can change overnight. Just it can change in an instant, if what, depending on what happens in the news and depending on what people tell you, or what you're told to believe by the so-called authorities like Fauci. But let's continue on. They say, during the brunt of the quarantine, especially many of us have had space to reflect on who we are and what we want, perhaps for the first time in our lives. This caused daters to be more honest and intentional. Not really. People weren't being more honest, but people were being more exclusionary. Again, if you weren't extremely afraid of the coof, or if you weren't taking all of your injections, or doing what you were told, regarding curfews or whatever it might be, there's people who are willing to break up with you, or ignore you, or hate you, or even try to report you to the government. But they say, before all of this, dating coaches and eHarmony relationship Lauren House's clients, the people she worked with, she says, had a laundry list of traits. Yes, women, again, are far more picky than men, far more picky today. They're far more likely to cheat. And they're also now have these expectations, even more expectations. And these are deal breakers. And when people say deal breakers, it's a deal breaker is a big deal. A deal breaker is something that you will not negotiate about, something that you will not accept if they don't believe the same ideas, if they don't act the same, or think the same way, or feel the same way about something. It's something that you would completely reject somebody over, or that you would completely break up with somebody if you figured out that they had the wrong idea. But let's continue on. They think it's normal for people to have big laundry list. Again, men don't have are very not very picky at all. Men will accept just about anybody, and they will often date down, even marry down, if somebody is willing to work with them and be friendly and looks at least a little bit attractive, or just a little bit cute. Or some guys, all they care about is if you got a big the thing, the thing a be a thingin', That's all they seem to care about. But let's continue. They say now people are homing in on what really matters. Yeah, your priorities are supposed to be abortion, quote unquote, rights, climate change, and the coof and the cough. You know, those that see this article is telling you and is training people to think this way. To a lot of people, this is completely normal. And it's also funny with these types of people, they can sit down across from you and they can tell you that this is smart, and if you're dumb if you don't accept these types of things. I've seen this kind of argument out there, and it's really strange to me because there's a difference between being smart and dumb in regards to understanding the principle, or understanding something. These are the types of people who supposedly love culture, supposedly love diversity, but again, they're the ones who actually attack diversity of culture and traditions and religions, and they are actually trying to make everybody the same. They supposedly support race, but again, people like Nancy Pelosi have openly exposed themselves as they are trying to make everybody become a uniform, darker skin color and stuff like this. These people are absolutely crazy. But these people out here, they don't seem to really care about your opinions and your feelings. And if you disagree with them, I guess you're just not smart. I guess, we're gonna put you under a mental or psychological evaluation, and they get to decide what's smart and what's not smart. And of course, we can't ask. We can ask for one president's to be evaluated for his competency, but we have somebody now like Biden, and you can't ask, what about Biden? Is he going to get a psychological, mental evaluation? No, he's not going to, be treated that way. Let's continue on. They say this trend aligns with the data as well. 86% of singles want a partner of equal or higher outcome. Of course, I tell y'all that they've done studies, and women want you to be making 3 times as much money as them. If they're a woman making just average money, making 30, 40, 50,000, they want you to be making over 100. If you're a man who's fairly successful out there, making around 100,000 on, they want, they're that successful. They got into a corporate job making 75 or 100,000. They want you to be making, 300,000. And if they're more successful than that, their expectations go even higher. If they're a woman who's making like 150 or 200 or 300,000, of course you definitely have to be $1 million man. If she's $1 million woman, I don't know if y'all have been paying attention, but if you're considering trying to date $1 million woman, like a supermodel or something, a lot of the times you'll have to be a multimillionaire, if not a billionaire, and that's why a lot of the times the really attractive women, the supermodels and these types of women, they you don't see them, and they don't date you. they they don't date you. But let's say a match latest singles in America. A survey of 5,000 Americans aged 18 to 75. They say this is a jump from 70% who wanted the same back. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So they're saying that back in the day, most people are just looking for somebody of equal outcome. Somebody was looking, and this is really again regarding women, because most men aren't looking for somebody who's richer than them. Actually, that's really taboo. If your wife is making more money than you will be shamed and you will be mocked, and there will be people who are openly trying to, even men will be trying to tear apart your relationship or your marriage because you're not a good enough man for that woman if she's making more money than you. In the past, you were looking for somebody who's making equal. That was fine. And again, of course, they like to ignore that in the past, as well, women were always wanting somebody who was making more than they were. But now it's women have even higher expectations. Oh, they do. They do. Everybody has Instagram. Everybody gets to see some people. Some people do have the luxury lifestyle, but some people are pretending to have the luxury lifestyle. Everybody's watching big movies like The Wolves of Wall Street, And what was that movie, like Filthy Rich Asians or something? Like everybody's watching these types of movies and they think that they can achieve that or get that overnight. They think that it's easy and they think that they deserve it for some odd reason, without putting in the work, without putting in the effort and the smarts. And these are the same people who hate capitalism. I hope you understand that too, which is another make it or break it point. If you openly support capitalism, a lot of these women will just reject you. So we're going over this article, and of course I'm going to tell y'all some solutions and things to do, but I'm going to tell you one of them right here. Hey there, Jonathan Lopez. Good to see you in the house. Welcome to my live. Welcome to our broadcast and our stream here today. Treat it like a podcast if you'd like to sit back and watch. I'd love to hear your comments. Get in that comment section if you'd like. Let me know how your day is going, what your opinions are on the topic, and any new videos or topics or things I should talk about. But regarding dating, I think that you should, again, it's really taboo to ask about politics in the first date. Some people are starting to open up that discussion. Again, it wasn't considered nice or wasn't considered civil. And again, in the past, a lot of the times people had similar opinions. Even in the past, I mean, there were differences. Don't get me wrong. Throughout American history, there were times where the Republicans and the Democrats or certain groups were really at odds. People were even throwing punches. Don't get me wrong. But in the past, not too long ago, the Democrats and the Republicans really, I mean, they weren't really that different, and they could be friends, and they often were friends. And in fact, a lot of the politicians are friends. Barack Obama and George or Bush, you know, both of them on the side are both wildly loved or wildly hated. They're actually friends with each other. So I hope that sitting down that I don't want to get into that. They're both bad actors because they are. But what the point I'm trying to make here is that politically speaking, in the past we weren't that different. These days, if we're gonna be this dramatically different, if again, women are 20% or so more likely to be left leaning, if they're going to if freak out, or they don't want anything to do with you if you don't support their abortion beliefs, if you don't believe the same things as them regarding you know climate change or evolution, or if you don't believe the same things regarding capitalism, or if you don't believe the same things regarding the election, the election regarding Biden, or some of these things, you might as well just ask women, and if they don't want to talk about these things, or if they act shy about it, I mean, that's just dangerous as well. You might as well just not date them. Um, and especially if they're openly just going to hate you or disregard you. Just save yourself the time, save yourself the effort and the money. I mean, again, in the past, it was expected for a man to court a woman for 3 or 6 months. Imagine you are trying to wine and dine. You've spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on a woman. And then at some point, she makes a little phone call, or she texts a friend, or it somehow gets brought up in conversation, or you make a joke, or she makes a joke, and you figure out that this person has wildly different opinions on something you cannot accept, something that or maybe she won't accept, and then you just wasted tons of time and money, and now this person hates you. I've seen this happen. I am a kind person, I am a genuine person, and I'm the kind of person, especially in the past, I would give the shirt off my back kind of person. I'd break my back. I'd do anything for you. I'd take a bullet for you. But the moment they figure out that you believe in something as basic as capitalism, where somebody should be able to produce, sell their labor or their services, or create products and sell it to people, and that we should be free, and that we should have less taxes, and the government shouldn't have so much power to control your labor and your production and your businesses, and all these things, and how they could, today with the money supply, with inflation, the government did this, the Federal Reserve did this, and the gas supply, the government created the gas shortage and the food shortage that we're really having. They created the food shortage. That this I mean, I'm the one trying to help people. I don't know if y'all heard that, but that was some real Southern thunder for you. But I'm trying to help people over here, and some people think you're a monster and you're just a terrible person because you support, you know, a little bit of economic freedom over here. I mean, just a little bit. I mean, hey, come on, just a little. You know, I'm not even trying to become the tycoon. I'm not over here trying to become Mr. Rockefeller. I mean, maybe I should. Maybe I should try to become the tycoon, and make enemies if I have to, because and maybe that'll get me a little bit of respect. And again, you know, those are the kinds of people who built up, build nations and build economies. And is it more moral or more decent for a culture and a civilization if the government is control of the production of, you know, the majority of the electricity or the gas or housing or construction or, you know, you know, of course, you know, with policemen in the military, they get to have a monopoly on violence and things like this. I think we need to have a serious discussion about that. I think that that's an interesting discussion, that you know, and again, in the past, a relationship was built more on attraction. You know, you built a marriage, a relationship, you know, on you just liking each other. And it's people in the past were even, you know, again, there weren't as many differences, or or the feelings or the intensity of those opinions wasn't as strong, and people were even willing to marry or date, have a serious relationship with somebody who had differing opinions, you know. And sometimes even religions, you know, people of sometimes various religions were even able or willing to tolerate each other, because, you know, the actual attraction, you know, the family, the biology, you know, that's what really mattered. And that was a stronger thing that pulled us together. But for some reason, we've had a cultural shift. We've had a cultural change, and I guess politics and social norms and I guess this gets into culture a little bit as well. I guess is more important than actual attraction. But let's continue on. They say shallow desires, meanwhile, are on the decline. That's what I'm talking about. They're saying that it's a shallow desire. If you're you know, really attracted to somebody and you really want to date them, if you really want to be around them, and you know, you might not even want kids, but if you do want a family, those are just shallow desires. You know, they're openly telling people not to have kids, and they're openly telling women that it's healthy and that it's good for you to have an abortion. It's normal for you to, on your career path as a feminist businesswoman going through college and you know, trying to move up in the world, it's normal they're saying it's normal for you to have an abortion at one point or another. That's the kind of thing that's going on. They say more singles, 83%, want an emotionally mature partner rather than someone physically attractive. Again, this is because it's socially normal for you to wait later and later towards for marriage and for a long-term relationship. Again, you know, men in the past and outside of these Western countries, you know, if you're past 25, especially if you're past 30, you know, these single mothers, they like to complain it's hard, that's hard to date. I'd like to see you as a single mother with, you know, with no skills and no real talents, who's living off child support. I'd like to see you move to a foreign country where you won't get that kind of those handouts. You won't get that, you know, that free money, and you got three kids, you're not that attractive, you have a bad personality. I'd like to see these women kind of survive in these foreign countries. And the truth is they wouldn't survive. And they can't survive. And that's the thing with culture. We have this culture, and we encourage, and there's a lot of people out there who still, yeah, some single mothers have been victims, and some single mothers you know, have been treated wrong throughout history. But we glamorize and we celebrate single mothers as if they're heroes. And the truth is, a lot of women choose being single mothers as a career choice. And I was at high school. I mean, I saw it, and women were openly talking about it, that they were about to graduate high school, and they're talking about, as they're 18, that they're looking, you know, thinking about looking to, you know, get pregnant, and, you know, get, you know, child support from somebody who has a little bit of money. and essentially become a government, a little a welfare mom. So there's women out there who are doing this kind of stuff, and it's amazing to me that men, women get to call the shots. They get to have all the demands. Again, people in the past, a woman past 18 years old was considered an old maid. A woman who was past 18, was considered an old woman, and her likelihood of getting married after 18 severely decreased. Severely decreased. It was actually very difficult, and it's a really strange phenomenon because again, your little kids are being taught to be openly experimental. Your little kids are being told to be openly, experiment with themselves and do things, that little kids shouldn't know about, or little kids shouldn't be taught with themselves and with others. They're being openly taught about trans and multi-genders and all this. And, you know, back in the day, it's funny because an 18-year-old was more likely to be a virgin. An 18-year-old back in the day was more likely to have less experiences, and be more likely to be able to bond with you, or bond with a man and actually care about you. These days, an 18-year-old, it's extremely taboo, especially if you're a 25, 30-year-old man. It's extremely taboo for you want to date or marry one of these 18, 19, 20 years olds, and they're not pristine, they're not virgins, they're not somebody who's looking for love or commitment. Oh, no, no, no. Out of high school, they've already had, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 different men. And, women, even graduating high school, some of them have been sugar babies, and some of them already have done some traveling, even, even if they just graduated high school. So it's a whole different world. The social dynamics that, again, a lot of people are slow to notice or adapt or to talk about, that we've had a complete change in our culture and social dynamics, and people are the ones who define and create culture. And I'm not trying to say that all cultural change and is bad. I'm trying to say that I mean, you influence it. People influence it, and there's change, and there's consequences, and good and bad of all of it. And you men have more influence than you think. If you spoke out, if you started, openly rejecting, 30 or 35-year-old women who are freezing their eggs, who think that they, deserve Mr. Perfect, maybe the word would get around that being a feminist like this was maybe not so good of an idea. 30 or 35-year-old women out here, there's still men out here who are dating them. There's still men out here who are marrying them. There's still men out here who are still throwing lots of money at single mothers and these types of career women who really just don't care about men. June, good to see you. June Boo. Sad man. Yeah, it can be sad for men, but we don't have to be sad. That's for certain. We certainly don't have to be. Let's continue on with the article here. They say many daters are looking for someone who inspires them to be their best selves. Now, this is good. I do like the emotional awareness of all this. People are starting to try to find somebody who's more emotionally like them, emotionally compatible, somebody who is more encouraging, somebody who is more similar to them. But again, they're waiting to older ages to find this, and for some reason it's seen as problem annoying or even problematic. That you would your priorities would be over to somebody who's physically attractive. I think that both of those things are important. But if you try to date somebody going forward, and the most important thing to you is physically attractiveness, that might not be the best way to approach it. But these people will openly say that you are quote unquote problematic. This is exactly how these people talk, and this is exactly how these people think. Let's continue. They say increased vulnerability and mindfulness. They say prioritating. I think they mean prioritizing. Maybe they spelled wrong. Engenders. I think that what they're trying to say is if you prioritize these things, it encourages. I don't even know what they mean by this. There's some spelling errors over here. They say an increase in openness. This increase of communication or want of openness, when okay, and then they get into the coup for the cough again, as an important factor in if you date somebody, if you don't. Some people were very scared about it. Some people had all kinds of rules and restrictions and limitations about what you could do and what you couldn't do. They say in an interview at the end of 2021, Hinge's director, Hinge is a dating app if you're not familiar. You can get it on your phone. It says of relationship science, Logan Uri called this trend hardballing, being upfront about what you want in dating. Yeah, I guess you could call it this. This can look like, say, telling your first date that you want kids someday and asking them what they want. Yeah, these are tough, hard questions, but again, if we are going to move towards dating through technology, again, you should that is a way to approach it, but again, there are dating websites and dating apps where there are filters and you can put priorities, and you can put if you're looking for a long-term relationship or if you're looking for marriage and these types of things. So, again, I don't know if people have the confidence, or I don't know if it's culturally normal for you to ask hard questions like that up front. It's been taboo. I don't want to get into the asking if somebody wants to have kids up front on the first date, but it really, if this is the first time you've ever met somebody, I do think that that's quite strange. I don't think that you know somebody on that personal level, and I think that there are other questions that you would build up that are maybe more important than that. Again, it's another thing is if you've been courting somebody or trying to pursue them for 3 months or 6 months, and then you have a first date, and then you start having to ask hard questions because you need to know that you shouldn't be wasting your time anymore. So again, I guess it really depends on what kind of situation you're in. But that's interesting. I do think men need to be more upfront, more bold, and especially speak out against the things that they don't like or the things that have hurt them. Again, a lot of men out there are still feminist, or they're willing to capitulate with feminism. If you're open, that you maybe don't want to date somebody who marches in the streets, or maybe you don't want to date somebody who is actively a feminist or aggressively a feminist. Maybe that's a starting point for a lot of you men who maybe don't have a lot of confidence. You don't want to hear that you're bad or that you're a danger, even especially if you're a good man, and especially if you try to help people all the time. It's extremely soul crushing, as you try to help society, and you work hard, and you try to build up, provide a service or a product, and you're the kind of people who are actually making society function and actually making things work, and then you're told that you're always a problem, and that everything you do is essentially wrong. It can be difficult. They say this can look like, say, telling your first date that you want. I read that, dating kids. Let me know, what do you think about that? That's an interesting one for sure. They continue. They say vulnerability is supporting mindfulness while dating. Uh, it's interesting. Yeah, we're kind of moving away from emotion. Romance has been kind of killed and been kind of dead, but it's interesting that we're supposedly moving to this more towards mindfulness. Of course, they're trying to influence what mindfulness is. It is good to be aware. It is good to be in control of your emotions, and be more logical. But the kind of things that has helped a lot of couples stay together, and has stopped people from divorce and a lot of other things, is emotion, and bonding and emotion is certainly a very important thing. But of course, we don't want to address that bonding and that love and that devotion that should be in relationships, because again, everybody's doing flings, everybody's doing things that are casual, and especially with women, they've done studies, and the more relationships a woman has, the less likely she is able to pair bond. And I don't know if y'all read those studies. Let me make this point, June Boo, real quick, and I will read your question. But pair bonding is where you have your first relationship. Maybe you lose your virginity. Maybe you have a significant emotional experience romantically with somebody, and you never really forget that person. This is why, a lot of people watch videos and they get on the internet and they talk about trying to get their ex back. They're trying to get back that first person, the first person they were intimate with, the first person they fell in love with. That's pair bonding. A lot of people will never forget the first person they truly fell in love with. And in the past, two people falling in love and bonding like that, it didn't matter maybe if they had different political beliefs or a different lifestyle. They would make it work, and they actually cared about each other, and that emotion and that bond was significant. These days, people are experimenting and telling little kids to experiment with themselves and do things with other people, even children, and there's that loss, that that human bond, that is kind of that's that it it's not innocence, it's something different, is really being destroyed. Again, even if you were a man who was lucky enough to date an 18-year-old, again, a lot of people would act as if that's extremely taboo. She might not even be able to fall in love with you anymore. She might not even be able to pair bond with you anymore. That's and that's something that can have huge consequences. This is why it's so easy. Women aren't supposed to be like this. In the past, this kind of stuff didn't happen. And this is why women are it's so easy for them, or it's easy for a lot of them to just walk away from a marriage, or even walk away from the kids. A lot of women, they especially, even after a couple kids in a marriage, they eventually, want to they'll walk out and divorce a man, even in her 30s, because again, these days people are willing to date 30 and 35-year-olds, and she's thinks she can move up and find a better man. uh, it's a wild world, isn't it? June says, "Do you think that that all this weak men is because of low testosterone?" That's a good question, June. June Boo, very good question. I do think that is a factor. What men eat is a factor. Everybody's going to talk about soybeans this and soybeans that. I do think that that is a factor. If you don't know, soybean oil and even soybeans has been put into huge tons of products. Your candy bars, granola bars, and tons of food. It's a filler because it was cheap, and it's also high protein. So people also want to buy products because there was craze, and it continues, where people want to buy things that have higher protein. So soybeans became the cheap filler that they started putting in everything. And if you don't haven't looked into this, soybeans are high in estrogen molecules, essentially feminine molecules, and it affects men, and reduces testosterone, and it even can be possibly a negative factor again in women's health as well. Too much estrogen, even for women, can be bad. And this is a possible danger. There's been science, and people have done studies in regards to even drinking milk. Milk is debatable on how healthy of a thing it is to actually drink and actually consume. Now, there are nutrients, of course, and things, but it's even debatable on how healthy that is. And milk definitely affects men different than it affects women. I'm talking about cow's milk. So, yeah, it's I do think it's a factor, but I think the thing that reduces men's testosterone more is really about how they think and their level of physical activity. Young men, young little boys, they're not allowed to run. They're told not to run. I've seen it before. A boy has energy. He wants to explore. He's curious, and he wants to run and get out some energy. And the woman thinks that he's rowdy. The woman thinks there's something wrong with the boy. There's mothers out there who think that they need to put their sons on drugs, and reduce and make their sons like little zombies, so they don't want to actually like run, swing a hammer, swing a tool, lift something, at physical exercise. This is what men's bodies are built for. They're made to uh, you know, travel. Men's bodies are meant to lift, move things, and even destroy things. Men's men can create things and destroy, and young little boys aren't, it puts you in a whole different mind frame and mind and the state of mind. As a little boy, if you're just raised in a big city and you're never allowed to run, you're given drugs, you're in classrooms, you're not, a lot of schools and public schools, they don't even have recess anymore. They don't even have, give their kids a 30 minutes breaks, where they can go out on the monkey bars or go outside and play and jump on things and climb up trees and things like this. This is just, it's not even normal anymore. It's very rare that there's even, and of course with the coof and the cough and all of this, of course, I mean they shut down most public schools, but that, there's people out there who would openly never want their kid, to not only do they not want them to, be physically active like that for some reason. There's parents who don't want them to, be touching and be around other kids like that either. So it's, yeah, it's absolutely crazy. A lot of men aren't really working out as much as they should. Uh, and again, there's a lot of factors. Skinny jeans are a problem. I mean, there's so many things that goes into low testosterone. It's diet. They're eating bad things and not eating enough good, of the good things. Again, we've decreased the amount of meat that, men are eating in general, and testosterone and men's health. Men need to eat more meat than women, and that is something that's good for men's health. But and there's lots of factors. But of course we don't like. For some reason, society doesn't like to talk about that. Society seems that it would like to make men become women or become like women. That the society seems that it would like that. They don't want the tall and the masculine and the strong men anymore. I mean, of course, they watch They make Hollywood movies with these hunks, these big Hollywood hunks that are strapped and have tons of muscles all over them. But openly, in society and culturally, we shame and we mock, those types of people. It's an interesting world. It's a very interesting world. Awesome information. Thank you so much. True words, how boys are being raised, and you said eye-opening. Yeah, absolutely. Boys are not being raised to be men. In the past, boys would be taught skills, they would be taught wisdom by their fathers and by their grandfathers, and maybe there would be like a sage or, the wise old man in the village. And don't get me wrong, there are wise old women out there as well. And you would be given life advice, and men would be able to run places, and they would get to see things, and they would get to see like animals, and they would be, given some responsibilities to help their father or help their grandfather, and be and work and do something physical. Back in the day, like people chopping wood and lots of things like that. But people these days, they don't really do these kinds of things, and this kind of stuff just doesn't happen that much anymore. And again, men almost want to make themselves more feminine so they can fit in with the public school systems. They want to, men, I was there. I tried to make myself fit in and be able to sit there for hours and hours and hours and listen to speeches and listen to teachers and learn things. You don't get to see do anything with your hands. You don't get to see the physical, anything physical. um you're not taught in a way that, school systems definitely don't approach different learning styles, especially learning styles that even work for men. And men, a lot of the times, are trying to make themselves essentially more like women. And these days it's even gone further than that. These days young little boys actually are trying to fit in, and they're getting approval, and they're being offered money, and they're being offered love, if they become trans. And but if they continue to be a male, if they continue to be a man, they're essentially told that they're problematic, that they're dangerous, that they're bad, that there's something potentially wrong with them, and that they're second-rate citizens. They will always be distrusted. They will always be, not good enough. And and women are praised. And again, I was born in the 90s. And I saw this. I had at least two or three teachers. And again, I'm from the deep rural south. People like to joke and say redneck village. things like that. And there there was still, even, and I wasn't in a big, and so I'm not from a big city, and there's still at least two or three school teachers who are feminist, and they definitely gave women better grades. They promoted women gossiping and having information, the sisterhood, and there were definitely cases where young boys felt ostracized, young boys felt ignored, young boys were given worse grades. Teachers would teach in an emotional way, or would teach in a way that just didn't make sense to young boys, and you were told that there's something wrong with you. This kind of stuff happens all the time. It happens all the time. But let's continue. They say, while we you may want to know if your date wants kids someday, it's not necessarily to project it into the future and dream up your whole life together now. That's somewhat true, but again, I do, if it is a big priority to you, again, it depends on how long you know this person, and how long you've been pursuing this person. If you've known this person and you've been dating with them or flirting with them for 3 months or 6 months or something, it might not be socially it might be somewhat normal, or you might feel confident enough to ask them, where is this going. Now, if you're on a date with a complete stranger and you've never met that person, again, I think you should build up before these big questions, including these political questions. But again, there's a lot of people out there who have such strong opinions regarding some of these politics and some of these things. You might want to, just, you could even copy and paste these down if you wanted to, because you don't, a lot of men out there, if you want to date somebody who's decent, somebody who's not crazy, you could have these top 5 questions. Have a questionnaire, copy and paste it. A lot of women don't like to expose themselves. They don't want to, they're on social dating apps to get validated. They don't want to take a test. But if, you could maybe figure out what a person is like if you had a questionnaire. Now, I think that is a good way to go about it. You could have 10 questions, and maybe a woman could send you 10 questions, and you could both understand each other a lot better because of something like this. But I've seen it where men have done this before, and then these women, they were talking on Tinder. That woman takes that questionnaire and goes on TikTok and puts you on blast, makes fun of that guy, mocks him, and insults him, and tries to boost her social status. And she's not going to fill out that questionnaire. She doesn't. She's not on Tinder, to be open and to be honest and to be, look for love. I mean, love. That's a 4-letter word to a lot of people these days. Love is an enemy to feminism. Feminists hate love because love is the complete opposite of almost everything that they do. But let's continue on. They say virtual dates haven't gone anywhere. Another trend they say is that phone and video dates. Some people are doing this. I don't know how common this is to get to try to get on a webcam, or do like a live phone call where you're seeing the person live, like on your phone. I don't know how many people are doing this. Some people do, but they said that they said that more people were doing this during the pandemic, but now they don't do it so much because they're protective of their time. A bunch of people were doing this supposedly when they were bored and had more time on their hands, but now they don't do it anymore. That's interesting. That is interesting for sure. I do think that would be nice if you could have, like, essentially a virtual date with somebody, especially if they're long distance or across the world. I think that would be a great way to go, and I think that would be nice if dating apps had a feature where they provided for you to be able to do something like that. But again, with technology, we have so much opportunity at our fingertips. We have so much opportunity to connect, but for some reason, we're becoming more distant. Men and women are dating less. They're having less relationships. There's less marriage. There's less communication. It's very strange. We're having less communication in this world with technology. It's strange. It's very strange, isn't it? Let's continue on, and let me know if there's anything that you thought was particularly important or valuable out of that article. Now we're going to go over Google News here again real quick. Again, I encourage y'all to not focus or not pay attention to international news that much, but it's good to glance over quickly what some people are talking about and what maybe the games that are being played. They so recently a news reporter supposedly was taken out. I told y'all that they were going to try to ruin our relationship with the Saudis, and they want essentially to reduce our oil or petroleum or gasoline supply even more. And now a journalist supposedly was, he was taken out. Somebody hurt, took it. He's dead, and there people are throwing blame around each other again. You just can't trust the American government in the United States of America anymore. Who knows if this is just all fabrication? Who knows who did what, or what was said, or what was done, what was planned? Because again, it's been proven that the January 6th riots were a psyop. It's been proven, there's no debate. It's a psyop, it's a fact. And people are starting to wake up to what the FBI and the CIA is and what they're doing. They're starting to wake up to what the Federal Reserve is, and that they were the ones who created this inflation, and that they're taking advantage of people. They're starting to wake up that these government programs are redistributing wealth to certain people, that you're being taken advantage of, that the stimulus package where you got $600 and then $1,400, that they only gave, I think, like maybe 12% of that money, or less than 12% of that actual of the bill. These trillions of dollars of debt, big bills, actually go to actually help people. They're going to people's pockets, and people, including Biden, are becoming extremely wealthy by being politicians. um, but let's continue. They're ruining our relationship again. If you're, they don't talk about it very often, but if you're from America or know anything about America, we have actually had a long-term relationship and friendship with Saudi Arabia, but they're ruining that. They're hurting that in a time where supposedly we're trying to get more gas. Supposedly there's a shortage. There's really not. We have gasoline. We have petroleum. We have tons of it in America, but they shut down our production, and they shut down our pipelines, and but then we're going to supposedly try to beg for gas. But then we got rid of our tactical oil reserves. We opened those up, and what did they do? They sent most of it off to China. So but again, most Americans don't even pay attention much to the real news. They don't even pay attention to what's actually been happening. We just sent off most of our strategic oil reserves that are used for emergencies, that is used for war. That is something that we only use if in the most desperate of circumstances, and it was worth a lot of money. And we just sent it away to China. We just sent it away. Let's continue on. We, they're you think your prices of things are bad enough. You think inflation is bad enough. The global warming people, the climate change people, are trying to make your electricity more expensive. They're trying to make it so you use less electricity. They've openly targeted or attacked high performance computers and a lot of other things. They want control of you and the internet, and a lot of things. It's and they're going to continue on with this narrative with that 10-year-old who just recently had an abortion about 2 days ago. Again, of course, they're going to ignore it, and again, of course, it was terrible what was done to that 10-year-old girl, but they're not going to talk about who actually committed the crime. I hope that you look into it. It wasn't an American, I can tell you that. It was not an American, but of course, they're not going to talk about that as a part of that problem, and they're going to use this as their straw man argument, because it's extremely rare. It's a very unusual case about young girls and having to save their lives and help them in regards to abortion. And she could have taken the day after pill, and there were lots of measures that were done, but for some reason they waited after the 6 weeks period. They waited too long, and then they had to go to another state. Maybe this was a political move. I wouldn't be amazed if some feminist mother took advantage of this situation and got her daughter to wait at past those 6 weeks, and did this for did this for politics. I wouldn't be amazed. Some people are absolutely crazy out there. Um, Again, I don't want to talk about Ukraine, but supposedly Russia is not letting up. Russia's not giving up. And they're going to continue doing what they want to do. And again, American leaders want to get us into conflict. Nancy Pelosi and our own CIA operatives have been over there to Ukraine, and they openly are promoting war. Again, war benefits the rich, war benefits the political class. This is not going to help you, it's not going to help our economy. This is not going to be good for us if this ever does happen. But let's continue. They talk about the climate crisis, and Democrats aren't doing enough. I don't even want to get into this, but again, they always freak out about things like California wildfires. California wildfires are actually, and wildfires in different parts of the world are actually a normal part of ecosystems. It's natural, it's normal, it's good. And again, people don't even talk about the facts about things like this. Please tell your children that there is a tree called the Great Sequoia. It's considered a national treasure. Giant trees. They're beautiful trees in California. And the only way that their seeds can grow, the only way that you can get new sequoia trees, is because the trees have evolved over hundreds or millions of years or whatever it might be, and the seeds have to be dropped into or be in ground that after a wildfire. Wildfire is essential to the life cycle, and you can't have great sequoia trees without wildfires. It's a part of what they are. It's that area, things have evolved and adapted to the natural occurrence of wildfires. So when there's these really dry places and these dry places that can go up in flames, the only way you can really manage it is and protect people's homes is to get rid of trees and get rid of things that are flammable close to people's homes. This is the exact same thing that if you live in an area that has a high potential for tornadoes or a high potential for hurricanes, I openly tell people that they need to get rid of any tree or all trees that could possibly fall in their house. Now, if you live in the South, like I do, there are pine trees which have really weak or short roots, and when the winds come and blow over these trees, they easily fall over, and they don't have lots of branches, and they're thin and they're light, and they can cut through people's houses. And I've seen that happen all the time. And you should have cut down those trees. You should have. I mean, you put yourself in danger, and then you got to think ahead. But we don't want to focus too much on the news and the politics of things. There's always some controversy. There's always some murder. But again, focus on your happiness. Focus on making your life amazing. Now, should you stand up for the right things? Should you speak out? Should you vote? Should you, fight for freedom and fight for, justice? Of course. But and in everyday situations, don't feel defeated. Don't limit yourself and don't weaken or prevent yourself, especially men these days. Men are being discouraged. Men are being told not to succeed. Men are being told not to become successful, not to become leaders. And it's quite a crazy kind of world we're going on. Elon Musk seeks to block Twitter request for expedited trial. Um, it's a very interesting situation. Elon Musk was trying to open up the algorithm and get powers, but it seems like, he is going to be brought into this deal. It seems like they're going to try to force him into this deal that he's committed to. But on the other hand, they're not going to allow him to have power over the algorithms. They're not going to give him control over how the artificial intelligence actually works, and they're going to essentially control Elon Musk and use him. This is a huge fiasco. This is one of the biggest things in history that's been happening in the upcoming years. And this is so important is because things like Facebook and Twitter can change elections. This is where a lot of people get their news. This is where people spread and get their information. And it's been proven that, Twitter's algorithm has been manipulated. you know, they get to control what gets seen and what gets popular, and they again, that they like to talk about voter interference, but they are the people who are actually, you know, shaping and controlling and manipulating society, and the government has their hand in all of it. The government definitely has the dollar out of it. You know, and they talk about Americans, the power of the dollar going down, and it's a boon to Americans traveling. They don't want Americans traveling. You having influence, you know, you men going around and finding somebody to marry, somebody to date internationally. You know, they celebrate all this kind of stuff. So, anyways, I did want to mention, I don't want to focus on the news for too much longer. Hey there, Alicia. Good to see you. Very welcome. Everybody's welcome here. Let me know how you're doing and let me know your opinions. I wanted to let you know, if you don't know, I'm sure that you do, that on the Google News here, I clicked on one of these links and it brought me directly to the Los Angeles Times. I hope that you know that the Washington Times and the Los Angeles Times and a lot of these so-called news agencies are in bed with Facebook. They're in bed with your government. They're controlled. You know, they're not real news. And it brought us to this website. This is just an advertisement, but it brought us to the Los Angeles Times, and there's a reason why they kind of came into the free space that was YouTube, and you know, now Fox and CNN and MSNBC and the BBC and all this, now they have tons of influence and power, and they are propped up and artificially put on the top by even places like YouTube, which was supposed to be about you. It was supposed to be about the viewer. Yeah, I mean, you were supposed to have the control. You know, essentially give your vote of approval by your thumbs up and by what you watched and what you supported. But even YouTube has sold you out. YouTube sold you out. But let's continue on with this article. This is from Batter Bachelor. I showed him a couple days ago. He's a pretty cool guy. He has some good videos and some good content. I don't want to focus too much on this, but if you don't know, in regard to the social war, these people openly attack things like Star Wars and popular culture, and they take over these things just like they take over your government. They invade your corporations. They also have taken over and harmed Star Trek and Star Wars and He-Man and Batman and just about everything in popular media and popular entertainment. Now, there's this guy called Young Ripa. I've showed him on my channel before, making YouTube channel. He criticizes comics and the mess and the absolute garbage that is, you know, comics. And again, a lot of people aren't around anymore or don't talk about. But comics used to be a huge thing in America. Every kid was reading comics. Comics. Everybody was reading and seeing a Superman. He was given a kapow to the villains. You know, Batman was swooshing down, and there was a given a kaboom to the, you know, to Joker, and all these kinds of things going on, and this has been taken over, and it's been on the steep decline. Comic books, and Young Ripa has become a very successful YouTuber, or fairly successful, and he's just launched his own comic book, you know, company, as he calls it, the Ripperverse. And and a lot of people were mocking him. They were shaming him. It's again the American comic book industry is in a steep decline. So if you were looking at this, you might say that there's little to no interest. It would be a huge risk, or it would be a bad decision to create comic books. But again, just like Kathleen Kennedy in regarding to Star Wars, or even Susan Wojcicki in regards to YouTube, these people openly don't really care about what people desire. They openly don't really give the people what they want, and Ripa knows that people are starving and they want good comics. They've been wanting good comics, and I wanted to talk about this real quick, is because, you know, again, I just read you this article where they not only talked about, but they promoted you uh rejecting people, dating someone or rejecting them based on if they have the correct idea, or the good idea regarding climate change and abortion, quote unquote, rights, and the coof, the cough, the sickness going around, and these types of things. You know, if you don't have the correct opinion, to ostracize them. It's the same thing in regards to comics. You know, these people, they were controlling comics to share multi-gender messages and over representation, and to mock and insult the fans. And a lot of the times they're just bad comic book writers and bad storytellers. And did you know that, you know, he was insulted? And this is a guy who's a, you know, Ripa is a black man. He's a minority, and he, you know, was mocked. He was insulted. He was told that he would not be a success. He was told that this was a bad idea. And guess what he did? He did it anyways. And he promised and he delivered, and he's actually making good entertainment. And he actually made over 1 million comic book sales. I believe it was in a day or a couple days. And that might not seem like a lot. $1 million in sales. Well, he's a YouTuber, and he doesn't even have 1 million subscribers, or I don't believe. And in the comic book world right now, with how bad the comic books are doing, you know, somebody stepping into the comic book world and selling 1 million uh, comic books, or making $1 million in a day or a couple days, is a big deal. You know, comic books isn't doing, they're not doing too hot in America. You know, manga, you know, Japanese anime like stuff is far more popular and has dominated the market, in large part because American comic books are so bad. They're so pathetic. But he's it's a wild success. It's better than he could have ever dreamed of, and he's made his dreams come true. And we bring this up because you can create your own culture. You know, you, again, feminism at one point didn't exist. A lot of men think that they're going to have to marry, or they're going to have to date a feminist, that they have to capitulate, that there's no hope, you know, to ever have a good job. There's no hope that you'll ever have a good career, that you can make that business. Yeah, there's government regulations. Yes, there's problems. Yes, there are people who openly hate you for just about any reason. There's bad people, but they don't control you. You have freedom. At least we have at least enough freedom in America today to be, you know, to go out there and to create what you want to create, and to, you know, make some change. You know, young Ripa is making his dreams come true, and I salute him for that. It's a dream come true. It's a wonderful thing, and I hope that he can make a huge dent and make huge changes in the comic book industry. It's the same thing in Hollywood. Most Hollywood movies are terrible. I would like to be a director. I don't know if that could ever happen. But and I've messaged people before. I've messaged Disney before. I've said, "Hey, you need a new director. It looks like you're struggling over there. It looks like, you know, you're losing money over there. It looks like you don't seem to understand the fans or understand storytelling, or it doesn't seem like you have good, you know, you got a good team on your hands. You know, I could help you. I could do that. I could create far better movies than you can." Especially if I had the assets and the money and the things that, you know, a Disney director has, the things they have access to. But let's watch a little bit of what Joker has to say regarding this. We're gonna jump around this. We're not gonna focus on it too long. But I would love to know your thoughts and opinions on this, because you know, again, you watching my video here today, you might have a different culture than, or a different religion, or you might care about something. There's so many people out there. It's such a big world. You know, they're trying to reduce the population and all these things, but it's such a wild world. You can go out there and you can still create a product. You can still create entertainment. You can still do something, you know, that you believe in and that you care about, and you can be an influence. And again, this is one of the reasons, and it's really confusing at first, because you're like, why do these feminists and why do these modern people and these multi-gender people hate, you know, whatever you're doing, for no reason? You know, it could be something, you know, really innocent, but if it's taking attention away from them, or if it's supporting different ideas than, that they have, even if you don't talk about gender, even if you don't talk about politics, even if you are, you know, talking about something really innocent, if it's taking attention away from them, or if you don't espouse to be a quote unquote ally, they think it's a problem. They, you know, they have to be in control. But let's continue. And this is I think a beautiful thing, and
for various reasons,
it's fascinating.
including keeping communities safe, civil, and true to their purpose. It's kind of weird, really, because a man creating his own comic book and wanting to promote and publish his own comic book seems pretty true to the purpose of the subreddit comics.
So I don't know if y'all know what he was talking about there, but Reddit has tried to shut him down. These people mobilize. They try to report you on all these platforms. They try to get you to get rid of you. Reddit was taken over by these types of people about 3 odd years ago, and so these people openly are getting him silenced and kicked off. Again, a minority or quote unquote minority or a black man who's trying to make a business for himself, he's seen as problematic. He's seen as a problem. Even though he's never said anything hateful, he's never said anything problematic. He just wants to give out good entertainment that's not focused on gender, that's not focused on gender identity, that's not focused on whatever is the current message that you're supposed to believe in and that you're told that you're supposed to believe in by the authorita, on your news or whatever it might be. So this guy, he's that I mean, they've already tried to shut him down. They've already tried to silence him. I mean, they don't like this guy. Hello there, ScentQuest. Good to see it. Less testosterone equals less population. That is true. That definitely is a factor in population. If you have less testosterone, you have less energy. You do less work. You're not going to become as wealthy. You might not be as attractive, and you're going to have less desire, to do something with a woman. And there's men out there who actually think that facial hair is kind of unnatural these days. That's how far. And I wasn't even planning on bringing this up, but you reminded me of this. That I was at college and I was around men who had really low testosterone. They didn't even need to shave like once a week. They didn't even really grow facial hair that much. They didn't eat meat that often. They didn't work out very often. And they definitely didn't talk and really act much like men. And so they didn't really have that much of a drive, if you know what I mean, to be with women. And I did, but of course I was respectful, and I really didn't act out on it or anything. But it's amazing that they felt threatened. They felt that there was something wrong with me because I could have like a full 5 o'clock shadow, or actually quite a bit of hair on my face every single day, to the point where I grew as much hair in a day as more hair than they probably grew in a week on their face. So yeah, testosterone is something that people need to talk about. It's something that is a huge national biological issue. It's something that is affecting our culture. It's something that is affecting men's lives. Men aren't supposed to live in this low testosterone state. This is, again, some people eat too much red meat. Yeah, some people are eating too much beef, but men need that, and people are not eating enough fats in their diet. And don't get me wrong, I'm connecting these two ideas because it's very applicable. But you know, fat, health and diet is also. We talked about how bad soybeans were. I mentioned that, and how that is a factor. But there are unhealthy fats out there, and they scared everybody into eating less fats. And the bad fats are what is put into your food from highly processed foods, and from things like McDonald's, and highly processed, those like little cookies, pre-cooked cookies that you buy, at the local supermarket. Those are the kinds of things that probably have lots of bad fat in them. But for some reason people wanted to openly started avoiding natural fats like butters and healthier fats, when they should be criticizing things like margarine, which has been proven to be pretty unhealthy. So there was actually people who were thinking they were more healthy. So they stopped. A lot of people actually stopped buying butter, and they would buy margarine, thinking that that was actually healthier when the butter was healthier. And this is a compounded problem. It gets even worse when lots of people are taking really high levels of sugar, and sugar and fat actually goes hand in hand. It's good. It works with your digestion, and if you're having lots of sugar, you should be reducing the. Lots of people need to have far less sugar in their diets, or if you do get sugar, it needs to be from natural sources like fruit. But if you have a really high sugar diet with very low natural fats, that's very bad for your bodies. And I've seen people who are 30 or 35 years old, and they look significantly older than they should. They were exercising a lot, which exercise is good, but that was breaking down their bodies because they were not eating enough meat, they weren't eating enough fat, and they were having a very high sugar diet with some vegetables and some odd things here and there. And this is the kind of thing that destroys people. And again, we have so much technology and so much that is available to us. You would think that people would sit down and look across the world and look at the diets that are out there. Yes, there have been people who have done studies. They've been proven that Japanese diets are extremely healthy and maybe the healthiest in the world. We've also proven that the Mediterranean diets also are extremely healthy as well. But on the other hand, we don't, for some reason, we ignore things that are extremely significant. And I don't want to make my channel about nutrition, but we cover a lot of different things and a lot of different topics that I think are very important. And one of the things that you need to know is that you as men probably need to be eating more fat than you're accustomed to. I'm not talking about eating fried foods more often. I'm talking about having natural sources of fat in your diet, like butter and cheese is iffy. I'm talking about natural fats from natural sources. For example, the French eat actually 3 times as much fat as any other country and a lot more than most. French people on average actually consume 3 times as much fat as even Americans. And are they significantly less healthy? Is it causing greater heart disease? Is it a huge problem? Actually, no. Is it causing huge amounts of cholesterol? French people do like their bread, so there is some cholesterol, but it's not from the fat. The fat's not the problem. Again, the problem is, are you eating natural fats that your body actually needs, and are you actually or something that's more natural? And why I brought this up is it kind of connects to this whole topic, doesn't it? It kind of connects to this whole topic because there's things out there that are somewhat natural, somewhat biological, like in regards to dating, women pair bonding and falling in love and wanting to have children with a man, and the man waiting until women not really finding him attractive until he's 25 or 30 odd years old or 35 or whatever it might be, until he's has enough experience and enough wealth, and then they have a healthy relationship. This is the kind of thing that's happened throughout the ages, and we've changed all these social norms, and we've completely disregarded. And not only have we not taught people good or valuable information in regards to these things, we've actually given people bad information. Again, women are being taught that they should be experimental as little children and that they should be doing all these crazy things, and then they're told that if they're looking for a long-term relationship or even marriage, that they should wait till they're 30 or 35. If they do have a child along the way, they think it's normal for you to have an abortion. And again, women are not being taught to look for a man when they're 18 or 19 or whatever, and people are actively trying to make it a crime and freaking out, where there's still laws on the books. If a young woman who's 16 or 17 wants to get married, she says yes, the parents have to say yes, and the judge has to say yes. You have to get approval from 3 different people, and and then and this it's extremely rare when that happens. It's not very common, and there's people who are trying to freak out, and they're trying to move up like try to make it so public schools uh you know last longer, like you'd have to graduate high school like when you're 20, and they're trying to make it you're not an adult until you're 20 or 21. I mean, this is just insanity. You know, you're a full-blown adult essentially when you're 16 years old. You're a full-blown adult. There's no question. There's no debate. Depending on your culture and your history, I mean, people in the past, if you were 14 years old, you were a full-blown adult. You know, people who were out there, they were hunting, fishing, going to war, you know, having families, had responsibilities, owned businesses. I mean, even when they were like 14 years old. So our culture, you know, there's these people, you know, it's absolutely wild. I mean, we've had this complete shift of what is considered quote unquote normal, and people don't even know what would make them healthy. They don't even know what would make them happy. They don't even know what's happened throughout history. They're not you're not even taught anything about history. It's strange, isn't it? Let me read some of the comments here. High testosterone causes male baldness too. That's what I've heard, and or hair loss. That's what I've heard, and I don't know. maybe that's true. Maybe that's a factor. I don't know if some men need to have less testosterone, and I don't know how you would put that in balance. If you have any advice on that, SentQuest, let me know about the best way to approach that. Anyways, um, again, shout out to young Ripa over here who has made himself a big business, or is going to become a big deal. You know, taking back the comic book industry, actually giving people entertainment that they actually like, entertainment that they actually want, and making people actually happy. Um, you know, I love this that people are stepping in and, you know, making waves and making change and doing things that people actually want. You know, again, young Ripa did not make his comic books to be support capitalism. He did not make his comics to support quote unquote always support promote freedom, or to support America, or to oppose you know, gays, or certain people's rights or representation or whatever it might be. He just wanted to make entertainment that people actually liked. That you know, people weren't mocked or insulted, where we didn't have like a, you know, you know, they keep making female versions, and then completely removing the male versions of superheroes and things, for example, or acting as if the female version's more important. Just like recently, like female Thor. Female Thor is ridiculous. That shouldn't exist. That is just a political thing. You know, Thor, you know, was considered one of the strongest, you know, physically strong and capable, and one of the strongest superheroes. But you can't, I mean, of course, there's the Great Hulk, you know, Hulk smash. But you know, Thor is, you know, you can't have a strong white man. I guess you can't have a man out there who's that strong and that attractive and popular or whatever. You have to make a female version and then act as if the female version of Thor is more important. It's absolutely ridiculous. No, I think it's normal for a guy to have hair loss. It's not really a problem. I hear you, SentQuest. um you know, especially if you once you get into your older years, it's not really that abnormal for you to have less hair. um and again, that is another interesting social topic. I don't know if I want to focus on that today, but men who have less testosterone often have more hair. But hair is also seen as more attractive. I don't know if you've ever seen, but there's men out there who have actually long hair, and they're more skinny, and they're more actually almost feminine looking, and some of them actually have really long hair. It's quite interesting. And some of them are artistic, and I'm not trying to mock and shame men who are naturally skinny and lanky, or you know, who naturally have long hair. It's just an interesting thing that they have less testosterone, you know, than men who have, you know, who actually lose their hair. It's biology is a fascinating thing. So my friends, my final message and what I wanted to wrap up our big live about today is that you, again, my message I keep telling y'all is that you do have influence, you do have choice. You can be an influence for change. If you have some things that you really believe in, if you have deal breakers, or maybe you just want to filter out people who are this aggressive or have ideas that you don't believe in, maybe you could be the first person to send 5 questions, or ask somebody, you know, what's their opinion in regards to the coup for the cough, or you know, why, you know, everybody had to wear those masks, you know. Or you could ask people what, another one of them could be regarding abortion, or regarding climate change, or governmental power or freedom. And there's a number of things you could talk about. You know, don't be afraid to, get rejected, or even reject women. Again, a lot of you men, you don't know how to say no. You've never said no to a woman, especially if she was fairly attractive, especially if she was really attractive. A lot of you men, especially if you believe in a certain culture or a certain belief, or if you actually want to have a long-term relationship, or if you want, especially if you want to have a family, you need to find somebody who has similar principles and similar beliefs to you. You might have to reject some really gorgeous women. Again, it's up to you to decide how important physical attractiveness is. But again, people in the past got married younger, and what held people together and made it so you wanted to stay in that relationship or that marriage, or you wanted to protect those kids, is because you both were physically attracted to one another, and you wanted to stay with each other. And they often got married, or young people often started messing with each other at younger ages. Now it's being promoted that you wait till you're 25 or 30 or 35 to start looking for relationships or marriage. And again, it's considered normal for a woman to start wait till she's 30 or 35 to look for Mr. Right. And it's normal for you to have an abortion. It's almost like a stamp of approval. You're not a good feminist. You're not a real feminist unless you've had at least one abortion. So this is the kind of world that we're living in. You as a man, not only do you have your own influence and your own chance to influence culture to make change that you believe in, change that we can believe in. You can actually, say no to certain women. And it's tough. Again, a lot of men out there, they're getting rejected. 80% of men are considered average or below average. It's very tough for a man to reject an attractive woman. It's very tough for a man to reject somebody who looks fantastic. Maybe they're both attracted to each other, but maybe if they have these kinds of ideas, maybe if they are this dangerous or problematic, maybe you need to just avoid them. There is cultural differences and societal differences now that are significant, and it's tough. It's absolutely tough. Again, it would be nice if we all had a similar culture, we all had similar beliefs, we all had similar core values or traditions. But the feminists openly are attacking your culture and your religion and your traditions, and they're very open about it. They're coming after them. And these are the people who supposedly care about representation and being a stan and all this kind of stuff. They don't care about traditions or religions and certain things. They eventually will take over them, and eventually will corrupt them and use them, and eventually get rid of them as they serve their purpose for the message or whatever they want. So tell them to have that you have a medical condition, need oxygen for your health. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. I don't know. Would that help? What would that do? What would that do, SintQuest? I'm not sure. So everybody, thank you for watching our video here today. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for listening to this broadcast today. If you have any thoughts and opinions and feelings that you would like to share, please get in that comment section. If you know of any articles or any topics that you think are relevant or important, please let me know what I should talk about next in that comment section. And please give me the good old like and the comment and the subscribe to, support me as I try to help the world as well. I'm trying to be a good influence. I'm trying to make the world a better place. And I'm trying to help men out there know that you have a choice. You have a choice. You don't have to capitulate to a woman. She's not the one. It takes two to tango. It's in the world of equality, supposedly we care about equality. A man can reject a woman. A man can say no, and a man can have beliefs that he thinks are important and beliefs that he thinks that are significant. And if a woman doesn't measure up to his beliefs or expectations, you don't have to date that woman. But again, they're the ones who like to scream victim. Supposedly in this world of equality, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's a very funny thing. So I'll see you in the next video, everybody. Have a beautiful one. Have a good one. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for having some fun. I hope that this was a good video for you here today. I'll see you. Have a good one. And Daddy Dating Advice here for you to help you be a happy man. Have a good one, everybody. I love you. You know I